with a Dianabol Kickstart. You guys join it with me. I want you to put your hand like as far away from your face as you can. And then do it with me. This is going to hurt. Yeah? Do it. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Vigorous PEDs. Mindset. No. Misinformation. Yeah, that's the right one. Vigorous misinformation. I'm Coach Steve. Time on is time off. Or is it? And for the guys that started performance enhancing drugs, somewhere after 2000, let's say 15, as YouTube and social media became a little bit more prevalent in the bodybuilding space. For the guys that started out on the forums, you might have heard this terminology. Time on is time off. So let's debunk that in this video because it's completely dumb. Time on, 3 weeks on halo testing, then 3 weeks off, and then what? 3 weeks on halo testing again? Are you crazy? Buddy, are you crazy? So on the forums, they would used to say something like this. You go on cycle for 3 months, and then you need to be off cycle for 3 months. Blood work, that was nowhere to be found. Blood work was never asked. You go on cycle for 3 months, and you go off cycle for 3 months. Completely disregarding that post-cycle therapy. Back then they would just start post-cycle therapy right away, right? So you do your last testosterone enanthate injection, you start that there ACG right away because testosterone enanthate takes 2 weeks to clear based on the half-life of the ester, even though, half-life compounds, and it actually takes 5 times the half-life before the compound is actually cleared. I mean, it took 6 weeks for me to start PCT after my last injection, and my testosterone concentrations were still, close to the bottom of the reference range. So keep that in mind for the guys that are going to do PCT in the future. So back then, we would cycle for 3 months with a Dianabol Kickstart. You guys join it with me. I want you to put your hand like as far away from your face as you can. And then do it with me. This is going to hurt. Yeah? Do it. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. That's what I think about the Dianabol Kickstart. Man, that actually hurt. I hope you guys didn't do that with me. So, Dianabol Kickstart, man. Yeah, let's do some other forum stuff that's complete BS. You go on a testosterone, first cycle, 500 test. And then we do a Dianabol Kickstart because you're impatient AF. Yeah, 50 milligrams Dianabol per day. Now, you have a compound that is very potential for water retention. And then you get a lot of estradiol conversion. Actually, no, you get a more potent version called methyl estradiol because Dianabol is methylated. So you get methyl estradiol. Your testosterone converts into estradiol. Now you got double whammy, methyl estradiol and estradiol. Now you need to overdo your aromatase inhibitor because you're, going on cycle for being off for 3 months before. So your 6-hormone binding globulin is probably high. And you already have unfavorable hormone panel. So your estrogen is high, your 6-hormone binding globulin is high, and you throw a lot of this estradiol in the mix, coming from Dianabol and testosterone. Moon phase would be an understatement, and gynecomastia symptoms would be occurring within the first 3 weeks or so. And now you're overdoing the aromatase inhibitor, not understanding that it's going to be a temporary effect, which you could have prevented by not taking the Dianabol Kickstart in the first place. Now you go in forums and they say, yeah, you're a little bit watery, you need that there masteronas. So you add in the masterone after your 4-week Dianabol Kickstart. You overdo it because you're on 500 tests and you think you need 700 milligrams of masterone to get that estradiol under control. By the time you start your PCT, your 6-hormone binding globulin is completely in the gutter, meaning no libido. Now, after 8 weeks on the masterone train, you would expect to be shredded AF, but that's usually not the case. You just lost a tremendous amount of subcutaneous water. So you will definitely gain that back during PCT. Okay, PCT will start 2 weeks of ACG, followed by 4 weeks of Nolvadex and Clomid. It actually works. I did a comparable thing during my post-cycle therapy, the difference being I let my exogenous hormones decline for 6 weeks before starting PCT. So that masterone will still be active and the testosterone will still be active by the time you actually finish the tamoxifen and the clomiphene. That would basically be the cookie cutter cycle and PCT that you could find on the steroid forums. Now, you do your PCT, 6 weeks in duration, you got 7 weeks of anxious waiting. When can I start saucing again? In the meantime, you get fat and you lose all your muscle, even though most of that muscle was actually water retention from the Dianabol Kickstart. Man, the good old days. And then you start your cycle again. You start this vicious cycle of water retention and trying to get your blood pressure, estrogen, etc. under control. Time on is time off. Now, let's take a more health-conscious approach. Not all this fluctuation in body weight, water retention, estrogen levels, and not to mention the mental roller coaster that comes along with it. Let's go with a sustainable route and do blasting and cruising, sticking with the lowest effective dose. If you go with the lowest effective dose and you monitor your blood work frequently and you make the appropriate adjustments to your blood work so it actually improves while you're on cycle, and if you have dose-dependent improvement based on the supplementations that you take, needless to say that supplementation might actually have to increase when you increase your testosterone or the other performance-enhancing drugs that are part of your blasting and cruising protocol. You do your blood work frequently, and now you can blast and cruise for a pretty long time. Considering that the exposure to higher dosages is only during a short duration. Now, instead of doing the post-psychotherapy rebound, you stay on the lowest effective dose of testosterone. You guys are going to challenge me in the comment section, and honestly, at this point, I don't really care because I've helped so many people over the years. 1 milligram per 1 pound of body weight at 10% body fat. If you're not a bodybuilder, that's too much. You can go to whatever dose of testosterone you need to get top of the reference range testosterone concentrations. And if you're a bodybuilder with more than the reference range muscle mass, it's safe to say you need a little bit more testosterone to keep that muscle mass, which is also supraphysiological over general population. That's why the dosages are a little bit higher than hormone replacement, guys. All right, so now you have blasting and cruising. Does time on, time off apply to blasting and cruising? Well, depending on the severity of your blast, if you're blasting your socks off or you consider anything over 250 tests a blast and you actually went to 500 tests, which is basically the cookie cutter dose of any form way back when. A lot of people get great results in that. They add a little bit of growth hormone, a little bit of insulin. I have a whole ebook dedicated to it. It's called The Off-Season Cycles with Bioidentical Hormones. I would highly suggest you read that ebook if you're interested in safe blasting practices during the off-season. And now your cruise doesn't have to be so long or so severe because you didn't really get in a terrible state of health after your last blast with these bioidentical hormones. Again, we're trying to go with the sustainable approach, which has the least effect on our health and our overall blood work results. Now, time on and time off. Let's say you cycled your socks off and you were blasting to the moon and back. Your time off is going to be 2 or 3 times as long. Maybe you did a cycle with a boatload of tren and you went on a tren bologna sandwich for like 3 months straight with Masteron and Primo and Winstrol. And, MK677 because I see your comments, but no, I'm not for it. I'll do a separate video on that. Generics versus farm grade versus secretagogues. Stay tuned. I will make you disappointed in your purchase. Sorry. So, you cycled your socks off. You blasted to the moon and back. You're going to have a significant amount of time off until your blood work markers are back into range. So your time on was maybe 3 months, and your time off might be 4 to 6 months. Even if you stay on a cruise dose of 1 milligram testosterone per 1 pound of body weight at 10% body fat. It might take 6 months before your blood work markers are back into range. It might take 9 months. Maybe you don't care about your blood work markers, and, you're probably not watching this video then. You probably exited after me saying blood work. You would just, time on, time off. It sounds good. I'll be okay. And then 10 years later, you have to do a consultation with a guy like me to get your health in order again. It's not going to be cheap, I'll tell you that. The advice that I'll give you, not the consultation rate that will be warranted, but the advice that will give you will be an expensive endeavor to follow, considering your blood work is not that good anymore. So, If you keep your dosages conservative, you take the lowest effective dose and you exhaust all the anabolic pathways besides the anabolic androgenic steroid pathway going through the androgen receptor, you can actually stay on a moderate dose, a sustainable dose, for a pretty long time. And your time off, being a cruise or following a post-cycle therapy, doesn't have to be that long because you didn't get yourself into this terrible health situation. There's nothing really to fix. You took all the proactive approaches you could to keep your lipids favorable, to keep your kidney functioning at 100%, to keep your liver function 100%, to keep your hematocrit under control, your blood pressure under control. You took all the proactive approaches, and when you do your blood work at the end of your moderate cycle, your baby blast, you'll see that most of your markers are pretty close to the reference range. Why would you need to take a significant amount of time off? You can just do a cruise for 2 or 3 months, get those markers perfect, and then you start another moderate blast of maybe 6 months in duration. I have 25 clients following this exact approach, and their blood work is just as good or close to the end of their cruising period. Really? And they're doing moderate cycles. 300, 400, 500 tests, maybe 3, 4, 500 primo. They're taking a decent amount of health supplements and perhaps some medication to keep the lipids under control or the liver under control or the hematocrit through frequent blood donations. But by the end of their 6 months blast, the only real noticing effect is the tremendous amount of extra muscle mass. No blood pressure changes, so they do the blood work at the end of the blast and they maybe need a 2-month cruise and then they can start another cycle. So it really depends on how you practice cycle hygiene. Let's call it that, cycle hygiene. And everything you incorporate, that determines the duration that you need to take time off. Time off could be short, it could be tremendously long. And it depends on what you take during your time on. Now, when you're blasting and cruising, you're always on, but you're on hard or you're on, a little bit. So keep that in mind, guys. I really hope that helps. I hope that debunks it for you. Do your blood work and take the appropriate actions based on your results. That determines the cycle duration and that determines your cruise duration or the need for dual post-cycle therapy and coming off completely, just like I did. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope it was helpful. If you're looking for the most comprehensive guides to bodybuilding pharmacology, you can find those ebooks on my website, VigorousSteve.com/shop. If you're looking for personalized advice, you can find the rates to my services there as well. Follow me on Instagram at VigorousSteve. See you guys in the next video. Vigorous crew. Front double bicep for you.